Hello, hello. My name is Michael Pepe. I'm a record producer, a mixer, and a recording engineer, and a songwriter based here in Hollywood, California. And I am at my studio in legendary Barefoot Recording. And I've decided to start this channel basically for tips, tricks, techniques, everything related to music production, engineering, mixing, anything like that. You may know some of the records I've done, you may not. This channel isn't really about that. This channel is really just going to be about asking questions and the answers that I would give. Whether you take them or not is up to you, but I hope you take them in the world and use them, and they help you create beautiful music. Today, for the first video here, I'm going to be going over techniques on recording guitar amps and cabinets. You can see on my screen I have a Pro Tools session up here, and it's the way that I usually record guitars, cabs, and amps. Usually, I always have a multi-microphone arrangement set up on a cabinet. In a minute, I'm going to take you to my booth where I have a cabinet set up with 4 mics on the cab right now, on a 4x10, an orange cabinet, and go over microphone placement, why I chose those mics for this particular session, how we'll hear them, and how they sound, and go over sort of why I chose the particular things that I chose for this song. I have some notes here. I'm not a professional at this, at YouTubing. I am only a professional at making records. So I'm sure as I do this, I hopefully will get more comfortable. Let me open this up here. But for now, I did take some notes because I feel as though it's imperative for me so that I'm already going to stumble over this, so I stumble less. So first of all, I want everyone to take a deep breath and think about you being in the studio recording a song. And recording a song with a guitarist, and you have a part. The guitarist has a part, and the song's already taken shape. You have drums recorded, you have bass recorded, maybe a scratch vocal, and you're starting to build the mid-range out of the song. You're starting to build some of the more exciting top-endy stuff, some of the stereo elements that are going to be taken up by the guitar parts. So typically, I like to think about how to do this in 3 questions. The first question is, what does the song and how does this part play in the song? So how does the song feel and what is this part going to do in the song? Number 2, what does the part need and which amp and guitar can I get that from? And 3, what does the player need to execute this part best? So these, before any of the fun technical stuff that we're going to do today, these are questions I ask myself when I'm producing a song before I even hook up a microphone or pick out a guitar head or a preamp or EQ, any of that stuff. I ask these 3 questions to myself, sometimes quickly. Typically, I'm asking these questions during pre-production so that when we get into final recording phase, I kind of already have my ideas together on this, at least like a macro image of it. So, what does the song need, and how does this part play in the song? So let's just take a power chord part, for instance. How is this going to affect the song, and how do I need it to affect the song to get the vision out that the band or that I want? And that's the first question. Number 2, what does the part need, and which amp and guitar can I get that from? So it's really interesting, when you have a guitarist and they bring you their part, and maybe you've rewritten the part already with them, maybe you haven't, I'm not sure. You listen to it, and you listen to how they're playing it, and you listen to the nuances that they're adding, or maybe the nuances that they're not adding that you want them to add, or maybe the nuances you want them to take away, right? And how is that going to be affected by your choice of amplifier and guitar? And for that matter, later on, we can talk about how that's affected with preamp, equalization, and maybe even compression, right? But it starts with the bass line. So I make that decision by listening to the guitarist play the part. And I'll do that by plugging them into different heads or combo amps in the booth or in the live room. And I'll kind of listen to what the part's doing, because you could give that same part to another guitarist and going to play it completely differently, and you're probably going to make a different choice on the amp or the guitar itself. And 3, what does the player need to execute this part best? So the human aspect of this is what excites the player, right? Typically, when I'm recording a musician, or in this more particular case, a guitarist, when I plug them into something in particular, they get excited. You can almost see like their eyes light up, like they like that, right? I probably get the same way when I plug into the thing that I like. But kind of paying attention to what's getting them excited, what's going to give me as a producer the best performance from them, right? If I pick something dull or that they don't like, it's going to affect their execution in a way that you'd be surprised how much better of a performance you can get from someone by getting them excited about the sound that you're getting. As a producer, I like to think those go hand in hand, right? As an engineer, so in my head, there's kind of these 2 different hats that I'm wearing at this given time of recording. When I'm the producer trying to get the person excited, but also as an engineer, right? What's going to make the most sense in the sonic landscape of what we're doing? And wearing both those hats, I don't think it's necessarily difficult, but I think it is vital to be aware of as you're going through and doing parts. So I always do a multiple microphone setup, typically 4 on a cabinet. I always say 4x10. There's 4 speakers in there for a reason. They're all going to have their own personality, their own characteristic, especially depending on what microphone you put on there, right? And then for combos, I'll usually do, if it's a 1x10, 1x12. I'll still do 2 microphones, and if it's a 212 or 210 or something, I'll also do one. Usually 2 microphones there as well. Now the microphones I choose are going to be, again, completely going back to what the part is, what I want it to sound like, and how the player's executing it, right? So I'm making those more technical decisions while I'm making these more esoteric decisions in my head. I'm also making kind of technical decisions, thinking, well, this has a lot of bite to it, so I might use an SM7 as my main microphone source and let the other 3 kind of be the supporting microphones. Or this has some really low-end, bottomy grittiness to it. Cool, well, maybe a 421 might be good for the main microphone, letting the other 3 support that. Or, man, this has a this part is high up in the neck and super piercing and needs to just cut through the mix. Maybe an SM57 would be better for that, or my favorite, an M201. It all depends. I don't typically use the same microphones all the time, but usually, as you can see here on the screen, in this particular session, on the rhythm guitars, I did a cabinet setup, and I used an SM7, an M201, an M81, and a 421. And that was the arrangement for the left, right, and center guitars, right? And we stuck with that for all the rhythm stacking. Now, the choice of guitar and amp changed. So the cabinet was still mic'd up, but I was using different heads and different guitars to do that. So I was kind of getting a sound that I liked with the microphones and then letting the amp head and the guitar dictate the sound for left, right, center. This is a technique I use pretty often, especially since I really like orange cabinets and Marshall cabinets. Once I get the cabinet sounding good through microphones, I'll usually at that juncture let the guitar and the player and the amp head actually dictate how that's going to change in the song. Now, if it's just not happening at that point, I'll change the microphone arrangement or preamp arrangement or something like that. But I typically find if you can get a really good sounding cabinet with your microphone arrangements, you can really do a lot of the heavy lifting with the player mostly, and then picking out the right head and guitar for each part. I almost never stack guitars with the same amp head or the same guitar. I will always, even if it's the same part, even if we're doing like in this particular song, we're stacking left, right, center, and it's the same part, but it's a different guitar and amp head. So you can kind of hear what I'm talking about here. So you can hear a distinctive left, right, and center stack. That's obviously happening from the player itself and the human aspect of the performance being different. But it's also coming from the fact that there's a different head happening on the left, different head happening on the right, and a different head happening in the center. Different guitar on the left, different guitar on the right, different guitar in the center. And I made those choices for a reason. Once I picked out my first tone, which in this case is on the left, then I tried a bunch of different guitars and amps and saw which one complemented it best on the right. And then once I had a right tone that I liked and recorded, I listened to those in stereo and then picked out the one that was going to go in the center. And we did that. These stacks probably took, I want to say maybe 6 hours, probably like a half a day, trying parts out, plugging things in, not liking things, liking things. And I would say the microphone arrangement and picking out preamps and EQs, that was probably an hour of it. It was most of the time, the 4 or 5 hours after that was probably spent plugging things in. Because like I said, once I had the cabinet sounding good, at that point it was really up to me and the player and the band as to what we wanted to use to stack this song. So anyway, enough talking. I'm going to go ahead and take you guys in the booth and show you the cabinet and the microphone arrangement that I did for this song in particular. And then we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get back. Cool. Okay, so here we are at my booth behind my control room here at Barefoot Recording. So you see, I actually had this built when I moved in a few years back. It wasn't here. So anyway, this is the orange cabinet that I used on this particular song. I actually use it quite a bit. It's kind of my favorite nowadays. It sounds incredible. The low end punch on it is just really, really something special, especially when you get into those big power chord stuff. Sounds great. So anyway, this is the microphone arrangement. I'll go over specifics in a moment. Take notice though, at the bottom, I do have it on a bass pad. I do this because, as you can see, I'm miking up all 4 speakers. And specifically, these bottom 2 speakers sound way better with this bass pad on there. The low-end push that I can get out of it is just really controlled, really focused, and without getting muddy or blurry or anything like that. Specifically, these bottom 2 speakers, without that, kind of they get muddy. It just, that's the best way to explain it. So, you can see here, I have an SM7B, an M81, an M201, and a 421. A lot of ones there. With the SM7B, this is kind of well known, so I'm probably not telling anyone they don't already know, but maybe that's why you're watching this channel. Maybe you do want this information. The SM7B, you can see the capsule is pushed back from the front of its casing. So, in order for you to keep perfect phase coherence, if you don't know what phase is, let me know, and I'll be happy to do a whole video on that because I am a really big nerd about phase, and I love it. So anyway, to keep phase coherency, I'm using that capsule as my mark point for all the other capsules to be lined up with. So you can see here, the M81 capsule is right against the grill. The 421 capsule is also right against the grill. The M201 capsule is also, it's actually like right against the grill, that guy. So you can see these are all the equal distance from the speaker that the SM7B's capsule is. So when you go on Pro Tools, I'll kind of show you the waveforms there and how they all line up correctly to get a nice focused guitar sound with all 4 microphones working together. It's a beautiful thing, people. It really, really is. Okay, let's go back to Pro Tools. Okay, beautiful people of the internet. We are back inside of Pro Tools in my control room, as you can see. The lighting's good. Ready to talk more about phase and microphone. So, I have the Pro Tools session open again, and we're going to go ahead and go to Guitar 1 here and take a look at the tracks in it. So, first of all, you see here, obviously, I have this coming in each on its own channel. Now, we'll go over this in another video maybe as far as how to kind of set up your DAW with this many channels and the track count and routing. because it can get it can get overwhelming. So we're going to say that for a different video. I think this video is going to focus on simply the microphone arrangement and getting it into your DAW and sounding good with phase coherency. Another video will go over kind of routing and some of the preamp stuff and some of that nerdy stuff. So anyway, we can see here electric guitar 1, which if I solo it is on the left side there. So if we zoom in here, we can see all 4 microphones, and their phase alignment is, that's basically as close as a human's gonna get it. I'm not trying to brag on myself or anything like that. This took me a while to set this up. This wasn't something I did quickly or overnight or anything like that, in 20 minutes or even half an hour. Probably took me about an hour to do, maybe more. It's due set up from the session, so I whatever. But in general, you can see the phase coherency here between all the microphones. And let me take the group off here and kind of solo each one out and go through what each one is doing, because they all sound very different, but together they make one sound. Okay, so this is the SM7. This is the M201. This is the M81. This is the 421. And this is all of them together. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff, I'd say. So, let me turn my notes on here again. We may be coming to the end of this first video. So we took note of all the capsules being lined up. They all came in phase coherent and sounding beautiful. And I think let's wrap it up there for this video. And I'll do another one when I kind of go over routing and track count and how I kind of handle all of that stuff, because it's its own beast. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this, anything else you'd like to know regarding what I talked about today, any holes that I left, any questions that you may have. And yeah, I'll be back with video 2, going over some more of the detail work regarding this same setup. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope it wasn't too painful to get through. And I do hope to do more of these. I have a lot that we could go over. Everything from drums to drum miking to bass miking, bass choices, more guitar stuff, vocals, mix techniques. It's huge. As you can tell, I have a few pieces of gear here that I use to do all these things. So anyway, we'll chat soon. I guess you can subscribe. I'm not really too good at this YouTube stuff yet, so I just hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.